Keon Ellis recently stated in an interview that one of his main goals throughout his NBA career is to make an all-defensive team, and a report just came out stating how it could happen sooner than he thinks. Sup guys, so like I said, a massive report came out stating how Keon Ellis can make that massive leap in his defensive performance to make the discussions of the all-defensive teams. And I do think that he has that potential, especially what he showcased at the end of last season. He's just an elite 3-and-D player, and there's no doubt in my mind he's got that potential to at least make the discussion for us next season. But before we get into the rest of the video, welcome back to Kings Digest. The channel showcases all of the upcoming Sacramento Kings news, so make sure you subscribe to the channel, as YouTube still tells me 94% of you guys that watch my videos aren't yet subscribed. So make sure you join the community before the next season gets here. Thank you guys for getting us to 200 subs. That's absolutely insane. Now let's just try to get this community growing as quick as possible before October 24th gets here and we face off against the Timberwolves. And make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss any future content. Now let's head over to today's report. As Keon Ellis stated that making an all-defensive team is not necessarily a goal for this year, but for his entire career. But I'm here to say, why not this year? Let's take a look at what it may take for the young guard to make an all-defensive team. To start, a look at last year's defensive teams. The first team was predominantly made up of bigs, including Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama, Bam Adebayo, Herbert Jones, and Anthony Davis, while the second team was a more guard-heavy with Alex Caruso, Jalen Suggs, Derek White, Jaden McDaniels, and Drew Holiday. So, obviously, the defensive teams mainly it's for the bigs of the game, as that's more so their job is to play phenomenal interior defense. So obviously you're going to see Rudy Gobert, you're going to see Victor Wembanyama, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis. Yeah, you're going to see those names, and it's going to be hard for Keon Ellis or for any guards really, any perimeter defenders to make it over bigs, because that's just mainly their focus and is what they train to do, is just play phenomenal interior defense. But the second team was guard heavy. You see guys like Caruso, McDaniels is there. Keon Ellis can definitely make that conversation with those type of players, especially now since Caruso has gone to OKC, who is such a defensively heavy roster. I mean, you got Chet, SGA, Lou Dort, just a few names there. So Caruso going over to OKC, you're going to have to split the votes amongst your elite defensive players. So that does give a chance for Keon Ellis to maybe replace Alex Caruso in that discussion. And he definitely got that potential, as we seen him clamp up Steph Curry last year in the play-in tournament. That's enough alone to make me want to put him in the all-defensive second team. But let's head over to the second report. As it states, that's a pretty impressive list of players with even more exceptional defenders behind them. And as it states, Lou Dort, Kawhi Leonard, Chet Holmgren, Jarrett Allen, and SGA being the next five up in the voting. And the first thing that stands out is the number of Oklahoma City Thunder players on the list. While only Caruso made the teams, he, Dort, Chet, and SGA are sure to split the votes this year, making the case for Keon to jump a few of them more likely. So that's definitely just, helping Keon Ellis's, report, as he can definitely make this list since Caruso is going to be heading over to OKC. You got to split up the votes. Keon Ellis will for sure be in this conversation if he can just keep up the performance that he put on for us at the end of last season once he started to get more minutes for us, as he just had an impressive stretch of games. It was around 20 games, I believe 22 games he played for us and got around like 26 minutes. He had an impressive stat line throughout those 22 games that will definitely make his case for being in the all-defensive category next season. So how can Keon make the leap to join the best defenders in the game? Doing what he showcased at the end of last season should be enough to get him at least in the discussion. And I couldn't agree more with that, as he just showcased to the league how he is going to emerge as one of the league's best 3-and-D players. He's only young yet, and the fact that he's so defensive-minded and such a tenacious defender already, you couldn't be happier with how he's developed and how he's going to develop. I mean, I'm just so excited to see how he's going to play for us next season, and I'm curious to see if Mike Brown is going to throw him into that starting rotation, as when he did start for us at the end of last year, he did, put up some impressive numbers as he made Sacramento look like a defensive-minded team, even though we are, heavily offensively minded. But let's head over to the other report, as Keon firmly joined the rotation in early March, averaging 26 minutes from March 6 on, while starting 17 of the 22 games. He was a major reason the Kings closed the season as a defensive-minded team. During that 22-game stretch, Sacramento had a defensive rating of 108.6. For reference, the Minnesota Timberwolves led the league with 108.4 defensive rating, while the Boston Celtics were second at 110.6. His impact on the team's defense is clear, which is a main hurdle to concur for defensive honors. Obviously, his stats and his performance showcased to our team as we were up there with Minnesota in defensive rating, and I mean, that's pretty insane, as they got Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards is an elite defender now. They're Jaden McDaniels, I mean, they are an elite defensive squad. The fact that Keon Ellis helped propel us to their standards is kind of surreal, and I mean, if he can just continue to do that for us next season, and I do believe that's a big case to why Mike Brown might want to start him, as he did have an impressive run with us when he did start those 17 games, and I do think it could translate to the beginning of next season, and it's definitely something Mike Brown should look into doing, as it could benefit us greatly to have someone so defensive-minded in that starting rotation with the elite offensive talent, DeRozan, Fox, Sabonis, and Murray. I do think that would be beneficial for the Kings, and I'm just so excited to see how Keon Ellis is going to perform next year. But let's just head over to one of the last reports. It was Keon's ability to affect the game in a multitude of ways that stood out. During that time, he averaged 1.5 steals, 0.7 blocks per game while guarding the opponent's top guards. Only 4 players averaged those numbers over the course of last season: SGA, Kawhi, Caruso, and Matisse Thybulle. That's an impressive list of defenders, some of the most elite defenders in this game. So the fact that Keon Ellis was in that conversation, he proved his ability to be one of the league's most elite defenders. And he definitely took that 26 minutes a game and ran away with it and tried to prove, that he is up there with the league's most tenacious defenders. Steals and blocks aren't the end-all be-all of defensive impact, but when it comes to defensive teams and voting, they help. If he can produce those marks for a full season, he should stand out to those who rely on counting stats around voting time. And the other area where Keon excels is getting deflections left and right. Keon averaged 1.8 deflections per game throughout the season, but much like with his steals and blocks, saw that number increase to 3 after March 6. So definitely when he got the minutes, he proved himself as he went out there and he tried to prove to Mike Brown that he deserves a starting spot and he will be a crucial part for the Sacramento Kings next season and for our future if we want to maintain some defensive mentality to our roster and some prowess to it. I mean, Keon Ellis is going to be a crucial part to that. Just seeing the deflections, 3 deflections a game from March the 6th on, 1.5 steals and 0.7 blocks from a guard, it's insane. And I do believe that he can just possibly take a bigger leap next season if he gets more minutes. I mean, he did prove himself and he definitely deserves more playing time. But let's head over to the last report here. As for reference, that would have tied for 8th most in the NBA with the 3 deflections a game. Defensive ace Alex Caruso led the league at 3.7 deflections a game, showing the importance of the peripheral defensive stat. If Keon can continue to do what he did at the end of last season, he will put himself in the discussion. But if he improves upon what he did at the end of the year, that's when he can force the hand of voters and make his career goal come true. And there's no doubt in my mind that when given more minutes and given the opportunity, Keon Ellis will prove to the league that he can make his dreams come true and one of his goals come true sooner than he expected and make an all-defensive team. And who knows, depending on how he develops, he could be one of the only guards and one of the guards in the next few years to maybe win a Defensive Player of the Year. Who knows what's in store for this young star, as he's definitely going to emerge to an elite 3-and-D player in today's league. And there's no doubt in my mind he's got the potential to make the leap and be up there in the conversation with the league's best defenders. But that's all for today's video, guys. Let me know down in the comments if you do think that he can make an all-defensive team next season and what you expect from Keon Ellis's defensive performance next season and how you think it's going to impact our record. And let me know what you think, if he should be starting or coming off the bench for us. But that's all for today, guys. Peace out. See you in the next one.